This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
And good afternoon, everybody. Good evening or good morning or whenever you're catching this program. I hope everybody's had a wonderful week since the last time we got together. We've got a great show for you now, and we also have some good ones coming up in the month of August as well. So I just want you to be prepared for that. I would like to, first of all, run off and say to Tommy Sett, my executive producer for today, thank you so much for all your hard work on this program. I also want to thank the Japanese Gardens of Miami for their continued support of this particular program, along with Rick Del Vecchio, my senior executive producer, for helping us get this program on the air. My guest this afternoon is a gentleman who's been with us before. As a matter of fact, a few years back, when I was going through some medical issues, he would sit in for me for about 7, 8, maybe 9 shows, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Always an incredible performer, always a superior talent, and just one of the kindest, nicest gentlemen I've ever known. We met peculiarly, but at the same time, we met through someone, and we've been friends ever since. We're no longer friends with the other guy, but we're both friends together. So it's kind of interesting. Geoffrey Mark is an Emmy Award winning and Grammy Award nominated performer. And he is also a walking encyclopedia of Hollywood history. If you know anything about the movies, he knows all there is. And if he doesn't, he finds out for you. He's been on many radio broadcasts talking about his knowledge about Hollywood, the history of Hollywood, and his opinions as to where things are going. He is he's an author, a writer, an actor, a comedian. He's written such books as The Lucy Book, the biography of the legendary Ella Fitzgerald. He also does a podcast weekly. Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella. We're going to be rolling it on the screen down here below as to where you can catch all the different podcasts, and he's heard all throughout the country. He is one of my dearest, dearest friends in the whole world, and one of the kindest gentlemen you'll ever be. Welcoming back the one and only Geoffrey Mark.
You know, the way you've described him, I would love to have Geoffrey Mark be one of my dearest and closest friends. How can we arrange that? Because that sounds awesome.
Look in the mirror. Just go ahead and look in the mirror. How are you, my friend?
It is good to see you, Gary.
How are things out in California?
Very, very, very warm.
Yeah, we've kind of got that here too. Geoffrey, you have been many things to many people. You originally come from New York, which is an interesting place to be from. We've gone over in the past whether that gave you a step above other people in the business. I just think your adventures in the business have given you that. But I want to talk about you as an author, a writer, and a researcher, because I know when you're about to write a book, I know you're heavy like I am on research. You pride yourself on the research that you do.
So we're going to put aside my acting career and my jazz singing career, and my stand-up comedian career and being a dancer, and we're gonna just focus on my being an author. Okay,
for a moment.
All right, I'm turning into an author dance, and I'm ready.
Well, okay. When you are thinking about, because as I said at the top of the show, you are a historian of Hollywood. There is very little you don't know. What you don't know, you're easily apt to find out one way or the other. And you've known a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, and I say celebrity, but you've also known a lot of actors. And for those of you out there who don't know the difference, Geoffrey will explain why I did the quotes on the celebrity thing. When you go to pick like a biography on Ella Fitzgerald or Lucille Ball, and I know you're friends with Lucy Arnaz, the Ball family, what makes you gravitate to write a book about Ella or Lucy, or now your own memoirs, which are coming out before too long? What prompts you to write a book about this person as compared to that person?
Well, putting my own memoirs aside for what I'm just about to say here, if I'm going to write a book, I'm talking about 4 years of my life usually. From the moment I go, ooh, I should write a book about, to holding it in my hands is at least 4 years. I'm going to spend that much of my lifetime on a project. I want to write about people who I think are the absolute best at what they do. So, Ella Fitzgerald, there was no greater singer.
True. Yes.
Lucille Ball, there is no one who did sitcom better than Lucille Ball. Ethel Merman, there is no one who did Broadway musicals better than Ethel Merman. I'm not eliminating all the wonderful people who are out there who do the same things, but these are at the top of their, and I've never met anyone who did Geoffrey Mark as well as I do. So I'm writing a book about him.
As you said, you would like to meet Geoffrey and have him on your program.
I would. He's fascinating.
Can you imagine that? Yeah. Can you imagine, though, doing an interview with yourself?
Well, writing my own book is kind of like doing that, because you write about the events and you write about the people, and then you're like, ooh, how come I didn't learn that lesson then? And how come I didn't? You question, one questions oneself, one questions one's own history. And I'm believe it or not, you have to strive. One has to strive to be accurate.
Yeah.
Because it's hey, I'm typing away here. I can make myself a contender for president of the United States because it's my book. Right. But I'm not, and I'm never going to be. So I try to make absolutely certain that my memories are clear, correct, and in almost every book I've written, I've tried very hard not to hurt people. With my own autobiography, in order to tell the truth, there are going to be some people who are not very pleased. And good heavens, it always comes down to those three questions. Are you paying my rent? No. Yeah. Are you my boss? No. I'll clean this up for your people out there. Are you putting a smile on my face at the end of the day? No. Well, then your opinions don't matter. I'm going to write the truth.
But I understand that. But my question is, more than anything, is marketability another reason why you pick the subject matter you do?
No. Marketability, it's a funny how you phrase that. Marketability is why I don't write about some people. I would love to write a wonderful book about Dinah Shore.
Okay.
And as I said her name, I heard 3/4 of the audience saying, Who?
Burt Reynolds' girlfriend. Burt Reynolds' girlfriend.
Let's not get started with Burt Reynolds. Okay. I would love to write the definitive book about the Ozzie and Harriet show. In fact, I have actually contacted her family, and they weren't receptive enough for me to push forward with it. But there are books out there I'd like to write, but no one will buy them. And I cannot spend 4 years of my life and sell 1,000 books.
Yeah.
I'm if I were 20, but I'll share a secret. I'm not 20 anymore.
No,
I've gotten, I'm not as old as you are, but we're just friends. We are just a few years apart in age.
I was reminded of that again today.
That we were a few years apart in age?
No, how old I am.
You look wonderful.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. Thank you so much. Bobby and Bobby.
People our age who still look sexy and handsome and like we've still got it. That's a gift. It's wonderful. I think it's also who we are as persons that comes out. It's our aura. It's our energy that reaches out there, and people go, "Ooh, he's still good."
Yeah, people are off-put by, number one, you and I have similar backgrounds as comedians and writers and etc. And people are off-put in the 9-to-5 world by people like you and I. And it's not that we do anything to make them feel uncomfortable. It's just that it's, as you and I have discussed when I had been feeling down, and that hasn't been that far back, that they would love to do show business, but they just somewhere down deep inside don't have a firm belief within themselves, and they're afraid to make that leap of faith. And I think that that's it, you know.
And those of us who do make that leap and get anywhere, these kinds of people who may be very nice folks, but they get jealous. They don't know what to do with us. And I've even encountered people. I said, look, I mean, take away the bling. I'm another man on the planet. Get to know me. Oh, you're so hard to get to know. You're so famous, and you know famous.
No, you're
people.
not. No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But that's not the point. The point is not how famous I am, or that I have an Emmy Award sitting behind me someplace over there behind me. I'm terrible. The cameras are turned. So this is my left hand and this is my right hand.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it works. So over that shoulder is my Emmy. Yeah. People get impressed, and that's nice.
Right.
And I've had this discussion with, I can't tell you how many people. And then there are the celebrities who choose to only be with other celebrities for that reason. They don't feel that they should spend any of their lives having to explain to people who they are as persons or why someone should be their friend. So they hang out. It's like why places like the Friars Club, which I was a member in Beverly Hills, existed. Right. So we could go, and those who drank have a drink and have a great meal and have laughs and wear our sparkles if we felt like it, whatever anyone's versions of that are, without having to explain, having to deal with jealousies, having to deal with people who don't understand the business of show.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I get it. Getting back to your writing, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you also are a great researcher.
Yes.
You spend hours and days and weeks and months and years doing research. When it came to the Lucy book, I know you're very good friends with Lucy Arnaz. And I know that you probably got some stories from her. What was it like writing about Lucille Ball, and what can you share with us that many of us may not know about Lucille Ball? I know quite a bit, being your friend, and I also know from being Desi's friend out in Las Vegas, but there are a lot of people who don't understand Lucille Ball. They thought she was just as funny off stage as she was on, and I keep telling people it's like going to see the late Bob Saget. He ain't Danny Tanner on stage, you know?
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
I talked to him the day before he died. I was that one just really threw me for a loop. But Lucille Ball, let me answer your question.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing. The first book about her I wrote was called The Lucy Book, a compendium of her television career from live TV until she died. So, you know, and then her sitcoms in the middle of all of that. But I wasn't writing a biography of her. I wasn't writing about her personal life unless something in her personal life affected a performance.
Right.
And that's why the family gave me the authorization. I write on the cover, authorized by, because I wasn't writing about her personal life. I was making sure people knew what the work was. And I did years and years of research. I had to watch everything that was available and listen to everything that was available and every interview. And it was exhausting. And yet, with my telling people I wasn't writing about her personal life, they felt free to tell me all this stuff about her personal life. And Mr. Arnaz's and the children and the. I have been offered $500,000 to write a book about everything I know. It's never, ever going to happen. I gave my word to Lucy Arnaz and Desi Jr. that I would never write stuff. Even correcting other people's mistakes about their lives. even standing up for them, which was what I would do. But no, I'm not going to write any of that. That was the biggest thing that shocked me, was how free. I mean,
yeah,
I'm talking about stars like Milton Berle got free to tell me stuff that I would never share with a radio audience or a television audience or put into a book. It's not my story to tell. The best I could do would be to give you reasons why things happened in a certain way. But, I have another book on Lucille Ball coming out next year called The New Lucy Book. And I'm adding in the films and the radio shows besides the television stuff. And Fran Drescher has written a beautiful new foreword for that. But again, I'm not writing about their marriage except where they met on a film set. I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Or where they appeared together on radio. I'll talk about that. But not from a respect of, let's go inside their house and see what it was really like.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
Yeah. Isn't it funny when you were talking about Milton Berle and all the other people, without mentioning names, of who would give you the gossip and stuff? As a society, I've always believed the reason shows like TMZ and others survive is because I really don't. You and I often gossip a little bit, but we never get into anything real super deep. But isn't it amazing how people just love about each other? It just is so annoying.
I think there is something in the human race. If someone does better than you, you get jealous, and then you want to find dirt on them to bring them down to your level. Well, yeah, I never became that, but I never did this. And everybody knows they're a terrible person. The stories about Lucille Ball being a terrible person are so specious and inaccurate, and usually 100% wrong, or there's a germ. She said a sentence to someone, and that someone thought if they repeated the story and grew it, that it would shine the light on them. No, it just makes you look stupid.
Yeah, I have this feeling that we love to build up people, and then when they're on top, then we want to drag them down. We want to knock them down. We want to make sure that they're they've got their comeuppance and etc. But the bottom line to me is that people are people. Lucille Ball was a woman. She was a human being. She wasn't perfect. That's why they put erasers on the end of pencils back in the day. Kids, you probably don't remember that, but we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. Geoffrey's made them. I make them constantly. And people somehow, they take that little foible and they make it into something bigger than it needs to be. I remember having a discussion with Robert Conrad from Baba Black Sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't like gossip either. And I only met him at a party. And I said, I understand you don't care for gossip. He said, it's a waste of time. Like the National Enquirer and all that. Who cares? And I know Kevin Costner, and I know they've written many articles about Kevin, and I know they're not true. I know some things about Kevin that are true that they could write about, but they don't. They write about other stuff that's really not true. So, but that gets me to my next point. The lines that you will not cross. Are children out of bounds to you?
People's children?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm writing about a child star, no, it's not off bound but yeah, I don't even like on media when people show their children, celebrities, and I don't even like. It's like, no, don't use your children for publicity. I don't write about people's children. I don't write about people's marriage. I mean, when I wrote about Ethel Merman, yes, she was married 4 times. I had to write about it. The most interesting one being her marriage to Ernest Borgnine. But
you can tell the story. You can tell the story.
Yeah. That they were legally married for 20. Every people keep saying 38 days. They were legally married for 28 days, but they lived together for only 48 hours. And everybody who tells these stories gets them wrong.
Yeah.
My book on Miss Merman, who I adored as a performer. I mean, really, a big part of my whoever Geoffrey Mark is has been influenced by her enormous, one-of-a-kind talent. But in writing about her personal life, it's funny, she, in her autobiography, mentioned the eraser and pencil thing. You know, we all make mistakes. That's why, erasers. But yeah, but in talking about that, I had to tell the truth. Her daughter did die from an overdose. Was it suicide? We're never going to know. But it was a tragedy for her.
Yeah.
But I've met her son, and what I think of him is not in the book. It's not necessary. I happen to like him, but what I think of him personally has got nothing to do with her story. I don't like exploiting children in any way. I'm on the board of Minor Consideration, Paul Peterson's organization, which is all about protecting former and current child stars. I don't like when children are used by adults for money, or definitely not for sex, because unfortunately I'm part of the Me Too generation. My own childhood was filled with that kind of filth. And so yes, I will go a long way to protect a child while they're a child. I mean, if we're talking about someone who's now grown up, I have a different perspective on them. But children, and I don't know why this sentence is not said more often, children need to be protected. They need to have a childhood.
Yes, they do.
I don't see a whole lot of that anymore, but that's a topic for a whole different day.
Well, I mean, you see it constantly year after year after year. Back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when child stars were being used here, there, and everywhere for shows, and then they outgrew it. Now, many of them learned to accept the fact that they were no longer 7 or 8 years old, or 11 or 12 years old, and they went to college, and maybe they went off and had careers. I think there are a number of young stars who have gone on to great success. And of course, the one that comes to mind all the time is Ron Howard. I mean, Ron has gone on to tremendous success, and there are others who have had their feet planted on the ground.
There's one word or maybe two words that explains all of that. The parents.
Yes.
The child performers, and this is not the 60s and 70s and 80s. This goes back to the beginning of silent films, where children were used to make other people lots of money. If a child actor is acting because he wants to be there, not being pushed by, ooh, my son is cute, I can make money off of him and not work.
Mm-hmm.
If the parents say, all right, you're being hired for a job, well, you must understand you're going to have to work as hard as an adult and go to school at the same time.
Yeah.
That there are 100 people waiting around for you to do your thing. So you've got to do it well.
Right.
And I'm going to be here with you the entire time to make sure that you're treated well. Parents who came to the set, they didn't tell the director how to direct. They didn't tell the producer how to produce, but they made sure their kid got a schooling, that their kid got time to play a little bit during the day, that there was a real lunch or dinner break, depending on what time of day they're working, and that no one on the set was using profanity in front of the kids or sexual stuff or doing drugs in front of the kids. Those actors, Ron Howard, my friend Stan and Barry Livingston, had wonderful parents. Ron's father was amazing because Ron Howard's father, Rance, was an actor. He understood it. But you bet your bottom dollar on the Andy Griffith Show that Ron rode his bicycle, Ron played baseball, Ron had time to just sit and be a kid and then fulfill his obligations. When you have parents like that, generally the kids come out a lot better. On the other hand,
there's the other kind of parent.
The parents who are there to make money off their kid, the parents who are drinking and drugging themselves, the parents who think that Their child's fame is their fame, and now they're a big star.
Yeah.
And the ones who didn't supervise, who didn't want to make waves, oh, we'll lose this income if I complain about something. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
The list of people is long and sad that the adults did not grow up well.
No. No.
Or they got addicted. I mean, let's start with Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. Let's look at Jackie Coogan. Let's look at Jackie Cooper. And each one has a different story. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, folks, these were the big child stars of the 20th century, the early 20th century. It's there. Show business. I am proud to be a part of it. It's a wonderful business. It's a ridiculous business. But we've never really learned how to treat the children. And applause to Paul Peterson for starting the organization, because Rusty Hamer blew his brains out because he couldn't deal with not being cute little Rusty anymore.
And take a look at the cast from Eight is Enough. How many of them are alive? I mean, the oldest daughter, she became anorexic and did drugs and everything. Geoffrey Mark is our wonderful guest. He's a historian of Hollywood knowledge, as well as an author of the Lucy book, as well as the fabulous biography of the wonderful Ella Fitzgerald. Gary Allen with you here on Main Street as well. Glad for you to join us. We talked a bit, and I mentioned at the top of the hour, please explain to people, and I used the quotes at the beginning of the show, the difference between an actor and a celebrity.
Sure. The word celebrity, the root word is celebrate, someone who is celebrated. It could be a sports star who got a medal. It could be an actor or a director or a writer. It could be someone whose daddy was very famous and they become known for spending daddy's money. I won't mention any names.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. It's.
By the way, have you stayed at a Hilton hotel lately?
You missed twice. I coughed that name. It went right by you. And I know some of these people. All right, it's not like I don't. They're not strangers to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But they're that wonderful phrase that was coined, I think, for the Gabor sisters, although it didn't really apply. They worked. Famous for being famous. Those are celebrities. Now, actors are people who have God-given talent, have a backbone, are on fire to achieve something, and they take their great desire to achieve and the talent, and they work their posteriors off to get somewhere. And if you break through, and I've broken through, and it's a wonderful feeling, and it's incredibly hard work to break through and to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are actors.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a lot of people that I ran into and have gone on to become actors. My good friend from the Groundlings, Mr. Costner, I think could be included. Ray Abruzzo, another friend of this show's, and a friend of mine forever in the day. We both got our breaks through Stephen Boschko, God rest his soul. But yeah, there is a difference between one, and there's a difference between what was that line in the movie where he goes, I'm not a celebrity, I'm an actor, or something along those, something, I can't remember who it was, but I he was English, he was British, that is for sure. Where is Geoffrey Mark going with his next project? I know you're writing your memoirs, which is exciting. I can't wait for that book to come out. But what is Geoffrey Mark looking at next for a project to write about?
Well, the new Lucy book is still taking up most of my writing time. Mm-hmm. My autobiography, The Devil Was Born in Brooklyn, which is copyrighted, I need to do like 2 more days work on, and it is finished. Mm-hmm. After that, I think perhaps Geoffrey Mark is going to retire from writing books and concentrate his creative energy on my singing career, my comedy career. There are plans afoot for The World of Geoffrey Mark, which will be a show. And I reached an age where I don't really want to be working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I want to see my friends. I want to have some adventures. And I want to honor that I am the age I am and just can't work 7 days anymore. I can't work. I want to have a personal life.
Yeah.
So I want to spend the rest of my life with a nice balance of working, performing in front of an audience. That's my biggest joy.
Yeah.
Is doing that and having a personal life and getting to see friends like you, but not just on Zoom, in person.
Yes, that's the great thing that I've said to you. How many times I wish I still lived in LA, because seeing you is such a joy, and being in your company is really such a joy. And with the different people that you see at the Wax Museum, which he goes to frequently. If you on Facebook,
she'll kill
what?
you. It's not a wax museum. It's the Hollywood Museum.
Hollywood. Okay.
There's nothing wax in there.
Let's light a candle. Come on, kids. Let's all have a bonfire.
The Wax Museum is around the corner from the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. The Wax Museum are around the corner from the Hollywood Museum on Hollywood Boulevard. The Hollywood Museum is at the corner of Hollywood and Highland in the heart. Just a 2-minute walk from Grauman's Chinese and from the theater where the Oscars come from. It's right there. And another place I'm very, very proud to be associated with. Danelle Dadigan, who owns it and curates it, is a genius. And she's been able to accomplish, really, and I don't mean to bemean Debbie Reynolds at all, I adored her, but she's been able to accomplish what Debbie couldn't. A repository for the costumes and the props and a remembrance of what Hollywood was like. Good heavens, there's a Batmobile there. Hannibal Lecter's cell is in the basement of this building. And then iconic Mel's Diner is a part of the building. So you're right there for Mel's Diner also. So I do enjoy going, and I haven't gone lately enough. Some health issues on my end have kept me home the last couple of months. But next event they have, I'll be right there.
Let's talk a little bit about your writing for comedians. And you have written for comedians and for a very, very, very long time, as our dear friend Bruce Falange, who I'm trying to get a hold of and have him come on this program next month. I'm sure he will once I do get a hold of him. But my cat Princess has just arrived. Her limo dropped her off.
Hello, Princess.
Yes. She's working now. She works for the Pause Network in town.
Bennett Cerf would have loved that joke.
Bennett Cerf. Oh my God, there's a name. Nobody in the audience will remember him but you and I, but Bennett Cerf.
Bennett Cerf, just so you don't walk away like, what? Bennett Cerf was the publisher of Random House, which was in its moment one of the biggest book publishing houses in the world.
Right.
And the celebrity of that got him to be a panelist on What's My Line for 17 years on network television. But he loved puns. He wrote books about puns. Yep. So that's we're talking about all this stuff. That's who Bennett Cerf was.
You are a comedian who wrote for comedians.
Yes.
Talk about some of the comedians, if you can, who you wrote for and what you had to do to write for them. I mean, you have to know who they are, the style that they have. I mean, writing for Rodney Dangerfield is writing completely different than it would be for Richard Pryor. If you wrote for Richard Pryor or Bob Saget or anybody else, I mean, different rhythms, different beats. Talk about it.
Well, first of all, there's no cookie cutter way around this kind of thing. You can't just, I've got 12 jokes here and I can sell them to 12 different people, because big time comedians know that if you're telling jokes that other people can tell, you're not going to stay big time very long.
Yeah.
So you have to write completely different styles of the persons you're talking about. Writing for and with Milton Berle was let's have it right now, and it wasn't playtime at all.
Mm-hmm.
Writing comedy for and with Jack Carter was different. Come, we'll have a sandwich, have a cup of coffee, we'll do. Then writing for friends who would do personal appearances and just needed something funny to say. My beloved Jack Riley, I wrote for him and with him. A lot of the people I wrote for, I wrote with. I wasn't like the stories about Bob Hope calling his writers at 2:00 in the morning. Hey, I'm doing a gig there next, and it's near the water. Give me a dozen water jokes. Click. Mm-hmm. And he was expecting the water jokes to be on his desk at 9:00 the next morning. I wasn't that kind of a comedy writer. I was usually somebody who assisted a comedian. I don't mean as a secretary, but threw ideas at them, reacted to what they came up with. They reacted to what I came up with. Or I wrote with other comedy writers, like my dear friend Bob Schiller, one of the original I Love Lucy writers. And the comment I'd wait to hear was, put that down. That means he liked what I wrote and he wants to keep it. Put that down. I've written lyricists. Each one is different. There's no, this is the way it works. Every single time I did something like that, the situation, the circumstance is completely different.
Yeah. I remember when my uncle, Tubby Boots, was teaching me about comedy and writing about it, and this thought came from here and this thought comes from here, and sometimes it might be a month later and you find where they come together. And I remember him giving me a cassette. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there was a thing called cassettes, and it was Lord Buckley. And I listened to that and I was fascinated by who he is. And for those of you out there, look it up, Lord Buckley. He somehow was supposed to testify before a Senate committee, and he didn't quite make the committee. He kind of disappeared from the face of the earth. He didn't disappear. He just literally wasn't alive anymore. But look up Lord Buckley. He was a genius in his time. He told the funniest jokes around. But I was fascinated by his rhythm and his patter and how he said and did things. And Tubby would always say when we go to the Catch in New York or the Improv, pay attention to that. Watch that. Watch how he sets it up. Watch what he does here. Watch how he does it. And, it was like Gilbert Gottfried. The funniest event that I had ever witnessed in my life was one night at Catch a Rising Star. And you've heard the story. I know you have. Where he shows up in his pajamas with his robe. And he gets on stage and he faces the wall, like I'm looking at the screen, and behind him was the audience. And he did his entire act that way. And it was the funniest. It had Bill Maher in stitches. Maher was doubled over. It was just, he was one of the funniest comedians. Now, the jokes that he told, Bill couldn't get away with. The jokes that my Uncle Tubby told, because he was much older, as a young man, I can't get away with. What do you think about the young comedians today that are just plain filthy their set isn't going good, so they blurt out a curse word, or they use this and I'm not going to mention any names, but some of them are just plain filthy to be filthy, and they're not using the gray matter.
You're talking about shock humor.
Yeah.
Let me throw in a word or a phrase because my own material isn't working. So I'm going to just throw it up. Oh, I got them laughing. Look, a comedian's on stage and for whatever reason, his material isn't working. You get that. One gets desperate. I understand that.
Yeah.
What I think young comedians today don't understand, because there aren't enough places to work anymore, is, there are what I call hack comedians. Now, the word hack has taken on a completely different meaning today. Use this hack in your cooking and things will be better. A hack comedian was someone, they told jokes. They may even have written a few really good jokes. But all they do is stand there and recite jokes at you. They've got no stage personality. It's not built on any kind of reality. It's just, well, here's this joke about take my wife, and here's my mother-in-law joke, and here's my tax collector joke, and here's my hospital joke. And they're funny. I mean, people do laugh, but you walk away not remembering the name of the comedian. Yeah. There are some wonderful people working in comedy today. And they can all thank my late friend, Bud Friedman, who owned all the improvs from coast to coast and really helped build young people's careers because he taught them you have to have a stage personality. Folks who are watching this.
To Bud Friedman,
I was not born wearing sequins. I had to develop that thanks to Rip Taylor and a whole bunch of other people.
Rip Taylor. God, I love that man.
I loved him more. He changed my life. He changed my life by giving me great advice. And I took the advice, which is really smart of me. But I look at the young people today. I love Jimmy. Jimmy Carr makes me laugh every time he opens his mouth. Earl Skakel may not be as famous, but Earl and I've been friends for more than 20 years. His humor is so smart, and he'll tell this really smart humor, wearing a wrestling singlet and boots on stage. And the next time he'll come dressed all in leather, and he'll do it shirtless for no reason, except he's well built to flex his muscles, which is antithetical to the humor coming out of his mouth. That's why it works so well. Oh God, I'm listening.
I had Chris DePetta on here. Oh, about a month ago, I guess now. He was on with Will Schreiner, who was a mutual friend of ours. Glenn Hirsch was also on, and we were talking about that. And I'm especially offended, and I'm sorry because it just seems to be propagating itself everywhere. I'm especially offended by female comics who are just plain filthy. They have no reason to be otherwise. They talk about their sexual whatever and this and that.
Because Sarah Silverman became famous doing that, and they're all imitating her.
And I do not like her at all.
How do I phrase this nicely? I think she's a talented person.
Yes.
I do not find her particularly ingratiating in person. And I don't find her material funny, because if a man was saying what she was saying, I also wouldn't find it funny.
Yes.
But she has a following. And in show business, they say if 10% of the population like you, you're a star.
Yeah.
Well, at least 10% of the folks out there like what she does. And, we've got stand-up comedians up the wazoo right now, everywhere. Yeah. And a lot of them are good. They're not great. They're never going to be big stars, but they're good. Their material is good. Their delivery is good. They just don't have that little extra something that makes someone into something. And unfortunately, a lot of our great comedians, the minute they get great, they become actors. And they make films and television shows, and they stop doing stand-up, which is a shame because they were so good at it.
Geoffrey Mark is our guest here on Main Street. Gary Allen with you, and we hope you're enjoying this particular program. We're talking about show business in general. I know that Chris DePetta, who represents Billy Gardell, Billy's out doing stand-up now. Because Bob Loves Absolola, whatever the name of that show was. I'm sorry, Chris. It's no longer on the air. It was canceled. Eventually, it ran its course. But it's like what it is. But then again, there are people like our late friend Bob Saget who just loved being a stand-up comic. Jay Leno, he's a comic first, and even though he has done some shows here or there, he did the show with Tim Allen before it went off the air about living in Denver. He did a lot of those shows. Jay is a comic. Now, he's not doing anything right now, and I'm not going to get into it. It's personal. But, look
at my friend Mark Price.
Yeah.
Who was Skippy on Family Ties. Is that the name of the show? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
With Michael J. Fox. He travels anywhere to do stand-up. He loves being a stand-up comedian.
Mm. Here's a question. Here's a question I've always asked comics.
Sure.
Are comics like Jay and Bob and George Carlin, are they born? I mean, or can somebody learn the mechanics and make a quasi living at it?
Here's what you can learn. You can learn structure. You can learn how to set up a joke better. You learn stage presence. One learns, don't just stand there and recite your material. There's folks out there, relate to them.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're part of, you're doing this together. No, I sound like I'm Clara from Bewitched. I believe you're born with talent. You either got it or you ain't. Thank you, Stephen Sondheim.
Yes.
But other comedians and just the experience of doing it can teach you how to do it better. But no one can teach anybody how to be funny.
No.
I'm going to mention a name, and I hope she's not going to be watching this. There was a very successful sitcom actress named Karen Valentine who came to prominence right around 1970 and worked for about 20 years, a lot on television and in summer stock. And my dear friend Rosemarie liked her and took Karen under. In fact, they toured in a play together, more than one, I think. And Rosie tried to teach her how to do a double take. She liked Karen so much, she brought her on Dinah, !
Mm-hmm.
To show off what Karen had learned. And Rosie had Karen do a double take on camera, and she couldn't do it. You can't teach a person. You can learn by watching if the talent is in you. Right. But you can't take somebody's, any old body, any more than you can teach someone who doesn't have talent how to sing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can teach them how to hit the right notes, but you can't teach them how to be a singer unless there's talent there.
No. And all of singing, from what I'm gathering from my dear friend Tony Bennett, God rest his soul, Mr. Benedetto, when he and I talked about it, and I said, Sinatra loves you. And he said, yeah, I know. And he said, but Gary, you know what makes a great singer? Phrasing. Anybody can sing Come Fly With Me or I Left My Heart in San Francisco. He said, but it's phrasing. He said Sinatra phrased every word right to its fullest extent where it was necessary. He said, not every word is necessary to be, but he said, that's what Sinatra had. And that's what all of us tried to be.
There's a parallel. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go, please.
There's a parallel between singing and comedy. With a singer, you have to have the voice. You have to have some training. You have to have a good instinct. It has to be the right song for the singer. The singer has to be able to make the lyricist's words mean something to the people. And then it has to be the right arrangement. The arrangement being what the orchestra is doing behind you. Because if all those three don't fit together perfectly, it's not a good it's not a good event for the singer. People don't realize you don't just get up there and sing a song off the top of your head. You work on it. You figure out what you want to do with the phrasing, which is so important. And it's the same thing for comedy. It has to be someone who's got the talent. It has to be the right joke for that person to say. And then they have to, their arrangement is, what do they wear on stage? How are they treating the audience? The arrangement is they developed a stage character. Like I have.
Yeah.
I don't sit around my own home in sequins. I dress like this for our friends out there today. I'm expected to be glamorous. That's my stage persona.
Well, this is me. The great singers.
Yes.
The great singers like Frank and Tony Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday. I believe they were born. I mean, even Dino,
Yes.
who I got to know very well, the Martin family, they were born for it. And there
Yes.
are people that are just born for it. And the stars line up, if you want to put it that way, and it happens.
Gary, I've known since I was 2 years old that show business was the only thing for me. I knew it. I knew it by watching it.
Yeah.
I want to be like those folks.
Yeah.
And it happened. It happened just that way. I've told this story before, perhaps on one of your earlier shows we've done together, that being such a big Lucy fan in the early 60s on CBS, where I Love Lucy and the Lucy Show were shown, right before the Lucy Show, there were 2 game shows, To Tell the Truth and I've Got a Secret.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Kitty Carlisle was the major star, To Tell the Truth. She was like the first lady of that game. Miss Carlisle had been a movie star, a Broadway star. She had been married to Moss Hart, who was a tremendously successful writer and director and author. And she was doing the show because she needed the money and it was fun to do. And she was very glamorous. And my mother's mother, we lived with my grandparents. My mother's mother was like, Jeff, look how she handles this. Look how that guy, and she just laughed. Instead of being insulted, she laughed it off and moved on. And my mother and grandmother were like, Ma, he's 2 years old. What isn't he with Kitty Carlisle? And my grandmother said, you don't even know what's in your own son. Someday he's going to be in Kitty Carlisle's living room.
Yeah.
Telling her that you said, what isn't he with Kitty Carlisle? And 40 years later, I was in Kitty Carlisle's living room. And I didn't make that happen. She contacted me and invited me over. That's just how my life worked out. Thank you.
We got a couple of minutes left. We've got about 5 minutes left of this program, of which Geoffrey Mark has been my extraordinary guest over the years and a dear, dear friend. What is your favorite time of your life?
I could give you a cliche and say now, but that wouldn't be true. I don't think there's an era, although possibly, winning awards and like becoming really famous. And there are people out there who call me a star. God bless them. Now I'm being called an icon. I'm being called a GOAT, an OG. I think when I was a little younger and had less health problems and more of a personal life and my partner was alive, I think that was a better time for me.
Right.
But we can't live in the past. We have to all we can look at is what's happening right in front of us. Desi Jr. gave me wonderful, wonderful advice long time ago, back in the 90s. He said, anytime your brain starts to, it happens to all of us. About, I should have said this, I should have done that, and I wanted this, and blah, 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 blah. He said, leave your house, go find a tree, pretend this is a tree. Knock on a tree. That tree is real. It's there. What's tatting? It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So focus on what is in front of you and what is coming. And that's what I look forward to now. I would like to fall in love again. I would like to, build a home with someone to spend our last years together.
Yeah.
Which is not that I don't still love my late partner, 47 years, but I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And I think there also comes a point in many people's lives where you have to, okay, this was good. What do I want to do next? Yeah. And I think my next is finishing these 2 books and then just being with the folks. I want to sing for you guys. I want to make you laugh. I want to see your faces. I want to know I made you happy, and I want to meet someone and fall in love. And that's the next chapter in my life, I think.
Well, I've got just a few minutes left of this program. And the one question that I always ask my guests, or not everyone, looking back at where you are now, what advice would you give a young Geoffrey Mark to maneuver through the mishigash of show business?
You are as good as you think you are. You're better than most of the people who are putting you down. Do not listen to your family at all. Don't let people use you. Don't undersell yourself. I was given that advice when I was 14 by Shelley Berman. Don't ever sell yourself short. I didn't listen.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the best advice. Have confidence. It's all going to happen. God bless you, sir. It's all going to happen exactly the way you think it's going to happen. You are going to be famous. You are going to be successful. Enjoy the ride. And remember to take care of your personal life too. Oh, and one more thing. Take better care of your money.
Oh,
because
God,
I should be a rich man and I'm not. Because
yes,
I didn't handle stuff the way I should have because I didn't know any better.
Yeah. And I'm in the same boat. You and I both talk about it all the time. He is Geoffrey Mark. He is an Emmy Award winner. He's a Grammy Award nominee. He is a writer, an actor, a comedian. He's the author of the Lucy book, a new book coming out on Lucy soon, and a legendary Ella Fitzgerald, a biography that he wrote. You can
the
watch
radio show.
And the radio show. Put those up there, Tommy, with the time that we have
Geoffrey
left.
Mark plays Ella every week. I play Ella Fitzgerald songs to a theme and give you insider stories as to how they were made or why they were important or what she felt about that music. So that's a lot of fun for me to do also.
Yeah, and you are a delight. I'd also want to thank the Japanese Gardens for their continued support of this program. Geoffrey, you are a gem. I miss not being in your company on a daily basis just to sit and talk and laugh and have some fun. But in this thriving metropolis where I live, where the all-night diner does literally close at 12 noon, next week we have my executive producer of this particular program, Rick Del Vecchio, is joining us. And next month,
but wait,
I have the people from, I think it's MOFA, the UFO specialists that you've seen on the Discovery Channel and the History Channel and Ancient Aliens and other things. We're going to talk about UFOs. And are there people coming and visiting us from other planets? I think so, because if you don't believe so, take a look around. I think there are a lot of people from Mars right here.
I agree.
Geoffrey Mark, thank you for taking the time out of your day. And please wait until after the show, and I want to talk to you for just a couple of minutes. And to all of you out there for joining us, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Geoffrey, I am seriously trying to get a hold of Bruce Phalange.